In ancient times, when the land of Israel was fraught with enemies on every side, and the shadow of conflict darkened valleys and hills, there arose a leader of singular courage and faith, David, the son of Jesse. Before he was crowned king, David's life was marked by uncertainty and danger, as he fled from the relentless pursuit of King Saul. Yet in this crucible of adversity, he became the nucleus of a band of warriors, known through the ages as David's mighty men. Before going any further, we invite you to join our growing community by subscribing and liking this content. Your support empowers us to share inspiring stories and uplifting messages with even more believers around the world. Every like and subscription helps us continue our mission to encourage faith, foster unity, and explore the rich history and spiritual lessons found in Scripture. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Together, let's discover deeper meaning and purpose in our walk of faith. These men were not born to glory or noble houses. Many were outcasts, disheartened, destitute, or in debt. They sought refuge with David in the caves and wild places of Judea, and under his command were forged into an elite force bound by loyalty, brotherhood, and an unyielding will. Though small in number, their exploits would echo through history, shaped by the leadership and spirit of the one who would become Israel's greatest king. Among these mighty men, there stood three whose acts earned them a place of highest honor: Josheb-Basshebeth, Eleazar, and Shammah. Each displayed feats of strength and bravery that inspired awe among their comrades and struck fear into the hearts of foes. Josheb-Basshebeth, also called Adino the Eznite, was famed for a singular, fearsome achievement. In a great battle, standing firm while others faltered, he raised his spear against the oncoming Philistines and, single-handedly, struck down 800 enemies. This act of valor became legend, a symbol of what resolve and courage could accomplish even against overwhelming odds. Eleazar, son of Dodo, was known for his loyalty and tenacity. On one grim day, as the ranks of Israel's army broke before the Philistines, Eleazar stood his ground beside David. While others fled, he pressed the attack until his hand grew weary, clutching his sword so tightly it seemed fused to his palm. The Lord wrought a great victory that day, and when Eleazar withdrew, the slain foes lay thick upon the field. Only then did the rest of the Israelites return, not to fight, but to strip the fallen. His steadfastness, wrested from the jaws of defeat, became a measure of devotion. Then there was Shammah, son of Agi the Hararite. In the face of an overwhelming Philistine force, the men of Israel fled a field scattered with lentils. Shammah alone remained. He took his stand in the midst of the plot, defended it, and struck down the enemy. Once again, a miracle of courage unfolded, not from a grand army or an impregnable fortress, but from the will of a single man who refused to yield. These were the exploits of the foremost three, but the might of David's company did not end there. Behind them stood the 30, a cadre of skilled warriors from diverse tribes and backgrounds, united by their loyalty to David and their readiness to face peril at his side. Among them were Abishai, Benaiah, Asahel, and many others whose deeds were chronicled and remembered. Abishai, brother to Joab, was chief among the 30. On one occasion, he lifted his spear against 300 men and slew them, earning distinction among his peers. Yet he did not attain to the renown of the three. Still, his service was indispensable, and his exploits became part of the lore that surrounded David's band. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was a man of action and distinction from Kabzeel. Not content with ordinary feats, he went down into a pit on a snowy day and slew a lion with his own hands. He also vanquished two formidable Moabite warriors, described as lion-like in their ferocity. In Egypt, he confronted a giant armed with a fearsome spear. Undaunted, Benaiah fetched his foe's own weapon from him and used it to slay him. These acts set him apart, and David appointed him over his bodyguard. Each man was unique, marked by his skill and character, yet all pledged their allegiance to David, forging a brotherhood with bonds that surpassed kinship and clan. In their exile, the mighty men shared danger and meager comforts. They hunted for food in the wilderness, slept under the stars with their swords close at hand, and remained ever vigilant for the approach of Saul's soldiers or hostile bands. Camaraderie grew from hardship, and each trial honed both spirit and steel. Stories abound from these days in the wilderness. One such account occurred during a time of longing and weariness, when David, hiding in the stronghold of Adullam, wistfully spoke of the water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, his hometown, then occupied by the Philistines. His words were overheard, and out of love and loyalty, 3 of his mighty men broke through enemy lines at great peril to themselves. They drew water from the well and brought it to David. Yet, humbled by their devotion and unwilling to drink what they had risked their blood to retrieve, David poured it out as an offering to God, acknowledging that such courage was worthy of the highest honor. David and his mighty men became more than warriors. They embodied principles of faith, sacrifice, and leadership. For David, leadership meant more than commanding in battle. It was about inspiring those around him, earning their trust, and sharing in their struggles. The mighty men, many of whom could have led armies in their own right, submitted to David's authority because they saw a leader whose heart beat with integrity, vision, and a reliance upon divine guidance. Their greatest victories were not in numbers, but in spirit. Time and again, outmatched by their enemies, outnumbered and outgunned, these warriors succeeded because they relied not solely on sword and skill, but on faith. A faith that their cause was righteous and their efforts guided by God who delivered them from every peril. Their loyalty was fiercely tested in dark times. There were moments of uncertainty, when victory seemed impossible and the future obscure. Yet David's men stood with him through betrayals, political intrigues, harsh wilderness wanderings, and countless battles. Gradually, their numbers swelled. Restless adventurers, fugitives, and men seeking purpose and redemption found in David's company a new identity and hope. Eventually, the fortunes of David and his men would turn. Saul fell on Mount Gilboa, and Israel, fractured and leaderless, turned to the shepherd warrior from Bethlehem. The mighty men became his captains and commanders as David was anointed king, first over Judah in Hebron, and later over all Israel in Jerusalem. Their loyalty in exile became the cornerstone of his reign, and their battlefield experience was invaluable as David united the nation, defeated its enemies, and established a dynasty. But even in victory, the mighty men remained at his side, not for glory or personal gain, but out of a bond that no crown or kingdom could weaken. Their stories, their acts of valor, sacrifice, and faith are preserved as enduring examples. From the caves of Adullam to the citadel of Zion, they carried forth the lesson that greatness is measured not in the absence of hardship, but in the courage to face it, alongside those who share your cause. So when we remember David the king, poet, and psalmist, we also recall the men who stood with him, men who, through valor and loyalty, helped shape the destiny of a nation. In their exploits we find echoes of brotherhood, leadership, and resolve that speak to every age, inspiring all who seek to do great things, not for themselves alone, but for something greater. Throughout David's journey, unwavering trust in Yah transformed his life and destiny. Just as David found favor through faith and surrender, you too are invited to embrace this divine relationship. Choosing to turn from sin and believe in Yahushua HaMashiach's sacrifice opens the path to true blessing and purpose. Though the road may be challenging, accepting Yahushua as the way, the truth, and the life brings hope, renewal, and the promise of guidance every step forward.
House of